The media has been slowly dying off, from ratings collapse to the collapse of print, layoffs across the board. It's just not been great since the digital revolution. Now, fortunately, channels like mine are doing better and better. There are pros and cons to this in that local papers are going out of business, and that's dangerous because we do need journalism in this country. Unfortunately, people now just lump all of the woke Twitterati types and journalists in the same bucket. It's kind of their own fault, and then just say good riddance to everybody. But I'll say this. Real journalists working for real newspapers are good people for the most part, and it's a job we desperately need. And that's why this news is really, really bad. The collapse today is newspapers. Check out this story from from the New York Times, not from Starbucks. Extra, extra, Starbucks will stop selling newspapers. New York Times. I wonder how they feel about this. They say, beginning in September, the coffee giant will no longer carry copies of 3 national newspapers and select local papers. Why? I'd be willing to bet it's because nobody reads them anymore. We just go on the internet. And that means people are going to lose their jobs. Before we read into this, and there's also some other news here, another brutal week for American journalism, more layoffs. Head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a Bitcoin option, there's a crypto option, a PayPal option, a physical address. But of course, share this video. And let me just say something. I have been smeared mercilessly since I went to the White House summit, but I will add, they really didn't have anything on me. They claimed that I pushed the Seth Rich conspiracy because I doubted Fox News. I kid you not. Fox News publishes a story saying it was essentially true, and I went, I don't know about that. I'd only give it a 55 to 65% chance of being the case. The point I was trying to make is I don't believe it. I am skeptical. Show me the proof. They took a soundbite and they're like, aha, he pushed the, oh yes, sure. Here's the point that I want to make with this video, and I made it before. Their desperation is showing, and as they're drowning, they want to make sure they pull us down so that we suffer with them. But this is the cycle. This is how progress works, okay? They had the opportunity to be Netflix. They chose to be Blockbuster. So congratulations, you go down with everyone else. With the media is collapsing. The new media is rising. I remember when I was relegated to the side stages at journalism conferences, they said it was a sideshow, this social media guy doing his thing with his little phone. They said we could do his job way better than him. He's not a real journalist. And then I got invited to the White House and they went, you're a bad man, you conspiracy theorist. Oh, my source for that story was Fox News, right? And I said I didn't trust it. All you're really saying is that you guys in the mainstream media push nonsense and you don't have fact checkers. So too goddamn bad. But let me get back to the news. The company said this week that it would stop carrying print editions of the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and local newspapers at its 8,600 locations. Starbucks did not give a reason for the change, but said it would also remove shelving fixtures that display whole bean coffee and grab-and-go snacks. We're always looking at what we offer our customers and our stores and making adjustments. Let me say this. There are still people who buy newspapers. It's probably gone way, way down, but some people still buy them. It's going to suck for them. They can't get their paper anymore. But for the most part, this means there were sales happening for these papers. Starbucks is huge. It is is it the biggest coffee chain? All of these newspapers, the New York Times, they're going to take a hit from this. Now, I'd imagine they've already insulated themselves from losing money on newspapers because we've known for a long time that paper is obsolete. What can a newspaper hold? 100 kilobytes of data, some ridiculously low number. I think like a 500-page book is like a megabyte. No, I'm sorry, that's totally wrong. A newspaper is probably like 10 kilobytes, some ridiculously low number. Anyway, let's not get into computer science because I'm way off and I probably sound like an idiot, so let's read on. Jordan Cohen, a spokesman for the Times, said in a statement, although disappointed by the decision, we're confident that given our wide retail distribution, readers will have no trouble finding the New York Times for sale at nearby outlets. The newspaper had an exclusive arrangement for many years with Starbucks, but the chain began selling other papers in 2010. The Journal was discussing other ways Starbucks customers could gain access to the publication, said Colleen Schwartz, a spokeswoman for the Dow Jones. Maybe you could do something where, if you log into Starbucks Wi-Fi, you get the New York Times. Right? That's actually really simple. And then you're on your iPad or whatever. They say print circulation has declined across the country according to data published in July. Ooh, this is interesting. Let's pull this one up. Let's hop over to Pew Research before heading over to the Columbia Journalism Review, which is a fake news publication, I might add, as they have published actual fake news. I will say that as a statement of fact. Newspapers fact sheet. Show me the data. And there it is. So in the 40s, we can see things started to go up. Let me see, weekday and Sunday papers. Sunday papers had a huge spike in the 80s to the 90s, but everything's down, 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 and it's really bad. I'm surprised it's as high it is. Check this out, in 2018, nearly 30 million weekday and Sunday papers being distributed. No surprise, though. Media's on the decline, and I'll tell you this. One of the reasons we are seeing the woke left take over is because of the desperation. So don't blame journalism. Like, don't blame the whole of these media companies for the most part. Like, you can blame them for the hiring, but check it out. A good journalist is expensive. I know how to research things. I know how to find, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I could literally find you personally. Okay, I could find your name, your address, everywhere you've lived, your phone number, your parents' phone numbers. I could find your social security number, I could find literally everything out about you in like a day. Okay, I can use that to learn everything else. Like, I know how to dig in and actually fact check and find and source information, and I know what ethics are. A good example is when I do stories, I find the source of the claim and use the initial source. What does most media do? They just cite each other in a big circle called cytogenesis, where someone makes a false claim. So let's say NBC lies or makes something up. Then, the Daily Beast will cite them, and then Deadline will cite the Daily Beast, and then NBC will cite the Daily Beast, making a fact with no actual source. It's just a nebulous cytogenesis. I don't do that. If I can't find the actual claim or evidence, I say I won't use it. I won't confirm it. Herever, someone like me, you got to spend a lot of money. I'm sorry. A good journalist costs money because there's training and talent involved. So here's what happens. As these papers begin to lay people off, and they are, we then see an opportunity for digital outlets that produce rage bait. Then you can hire someone who's fresh out of college who wants to work for 30 or 40 grand, who has no idea what they're talking about, and just garbles nonsense all day, and generates clicks. When the business becomes about money, not journalism, what happens? It's very simple. They say whoever gets the most clicks wins. We're going to keep you on board, and we're going to fire other people. So you then end up seeing woke rage bait articles that drive you insane. Even Columbia Journalism Review is guilty of this. They're fake news. They've done it. I will never do that, but I admit this. It is a big challenge for Subverse, which I don't have pulled up, but youtube.com/Subverse videos and subverse.net is the news enterprise for which I am helping build. Admittedly, it's being run mostly by Emily, who's a producer who's worked with me in the past. So give her the credit. The intention is to be straight news, and we're probably going to be launching a dedicated podcast for Subverse. It's going to be like centrist. I don't want to say IDW type, but like the goal is to make it more rational IDW type commentary on news events and culture and things like that. Very similar to what I'm doing, but with more people. So that's going to be coming up soon with Subverse. And our goal is to never just be a rage bait outlet. The news is going to be what we think is important. And if you look at our videos now, it's really funny how people like to point to my videos and be like, look, he only talks about, hating the left. And I'm like, I got 3 channels, dude. And sometimes I talk about aliens. I have talked about aliens on this channel more times than I care to admit because it was in the news and it was interesting. And on Subverse, where we dedicate the actual news content to, I have hosted over 100 or several hundred maybe at this point, maybe a couple hundred videos. No, maybe like 100. I don't know. Just straight news videos. And you've probably seen them. Rather boring. So yes, I do legitimate journalism outside of political commentary. Just because political commentary sells better doesn't mean I don't do journalism. These people are nuts. We face a challenge in that, admittedly, because we're not going to make rage bait content. When we do videos about Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook hurting, people love it and we get tons of hits. And I'm like, well, I can't control what people are interested in. We're not going to make a channel dedicated to hating on Facebook. We'll present news on Facebook without our opinions when it's relevant. And there's a lot of negative news about Facebook. So we say it. They're getting fined a bunch of money. They're bleeding users. Facebook is not viewed favorably by most of the public. So there's a lot of stories coming out. What happens with these outlets is they'll be like, ooh, hating Facebook does well, do more. For us, it's like, well, we care about tech issues, sci-fi, and on-the-ground reporting. So if we're going to do an on-the-ground report, then we're not going to cover the Facebook stuff. But this does put us at a huge disadvantage. We do a video about like biology, and it'll get 15,000 views. Not bad, but not good. We'll do a video about Facebook, we get 70,000. None of those videos will have our opinions in them. which means it's hard to stabilize and figure out exactly how we can make a sustainable platform. We're aiming for subscriptions, like subscribe to us, because we're not trying to woke you, like we're not trying to produce woke rage bait to drive traffic. We're just trying to present important news and, science, technology, security, and cultural politics. But when we see the decline of these news outlets, the media companies that want to make money, the investors, just get woke rage bait artists to make nonsense, and it works better than we'll ever, experience, right? On my channels, I have produced videos that I know probably won't do as well because my intention is not to make rage bait. Although, admittedly, for an individual, I talk about what I care about. I'll say this. You come to my channel, you're going to see a lot of my personal focus on, identitarian leftists and the damage they cause in Antifa. Because I'm an individual, and it's what I think is most important. When you look at Subverse, we have people arguing over what we think should or shouldn't be on top, and thus it becomes more diverse. The difference between what I do as an individual and what Subverse does as an organization, compared to these outlets, is that these outlets do the same thing as me as an individual, but at a corporate level with a flow chart and a plan. There was an expose showing that Mike told their employees, produce woke rage bait. So while you can absolutely criticize me for focusing on core issues, I'm a person with personal opinions opining on the things I care about. It's different from a corporation, a business that tells their staff this is what makes money and we want you to do. Subverse talks about what a variety of individuals working for Subverse thinks are important, and no, we're not chasing a narrative. The company has no opinion. Subverse doesn't have one. We have our biases where we think this story about, biomolecular technology is more important because we'll talk about it, sure. But you look at these outlets like Mike, and we saw, I think it might have been from Tablet, I'm not sure, where they said employees had a formula they were told they had to follow to generate traffic. So while we're not perfect, and I'm not going to say what I do is any better than these companies, I will say it's a difference when it's an individual opining. I can talk about whatever I want, man. I'm going to make videos all day and night expressing my personal opinions. I am not being funded by NBC to the tune of $200 million to do so. I am an independent creator. Subverse, which is, which I am, funding, I purposefully removed myself from for the most part so that it can be a legit news organization. So, look, long story short, print is dying. And I'll wrap this up. And while we can laugh at these companies for doing it to themselves, New York Times publishes some fake news. They did a front page fake news story about YouTube. There you go. There it is. The desperation makes them just nasty. Well, you shouldn't do it. And you deserve what you get when you do. And even CJR, Columbia Journalism Review, published overt fake news. Legitimately. Fake. Completely made up. Fabricated. It is what it is. We'll try and do best. Go and follow us over at youtube.com/subversevideos if you want to see straight news reporting. I'll tell you this now. Expect it to be rather boring, but that's the point. It's not supposed to cater to you and your feelings. It's supposed to inform you, and that's what it does. But I will add, right now there's a plan for a Sunday podcast, which will be very much like what I'm doing now, but with the other Subverse, team members. So there will be pushback and the goal is to make a centrist podcast talking about what we like. I think it's important to talk about centrist opinions and moderate, left-leaning positions because I'm one of very few people who actually does it. And I need other people to balance out away from what I think is important, right? So it's an expansion. I'll leave it there. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Stick around. Next segment will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. on this channel. Podcast every day at 6:30 p.m., except I'm terrible because I can't schedule them and I forget. But thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all in the next segment. Share the video if you like it, and I will see you tomorrow.